or it's unpleasant, or it's neither pleasant or unpleasant. So, if someone gently strokes your arm, maybe it's pleasant, but if they pinch you, it's unpleasant. Maybe if they kind of brush against you casually in the store, it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant because it's not either a massage nor is it a pinch. It's just a little mistake. They brushed against you. So everything is supposed to fit into those three categories. And it's kind of interesting, or very interesting for some people, to start, as you start being present in your body for your experience, to notice that your experience that you have has these three flavors. Because it's often, it's the nature of the flavor that we have that we react and respond to. So if the flavor is pleasant, some people are driven to want more, to get attached. If it's unpleasant, some people will either push it away or pull away. If it's neither pleasant or unpleasant, some people just kind of space out or something. So to get a handle about how we tend to react to our experience, it can be helpful to tune in or bring into focus how our experience is pleasant and unpleasant. Part of the power of this simplicity is that it cuts through the amazing brilliance of your mind to make things more complicated than they need to be. So I can be sitting here and I could be sitting here and feel a little bit of some kind of unease in my ankle, and then I can start thinking about what I did today, and maybe I walked too much today, and probably I should get more shoes, and it's hard to get shoes for my size, and why don't they make shoes my size, and I need to write to someone to fix this problem. And so I can go on and on with that. Or I can just bring my attention to the unpleasant feeling in my ankle and feel carefully what's there and feel that probably what I need to do is give my ankle a massage, or maybe just kind of not sit in half lotus when I've tired my ankle. And you can tune into the simplicity of it and get different kind of information than if I tune into the complexity of it. But the simple reaction being for and against is there. So I hope that was clear enough. Is that okay? You with me? Because it gets more interesting if you follow this simple thing. In the discussion, so the idea is to drop in, to show up here for the direct experience of your life through your body. So you have to really be here. When you can be here in your body for your experience, then you start noticing something about your experience. And the first thing the Buddha says directs your attention to is to notice the flavor, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And then he divides up these three categories of feelings into three kinds of feelings into two categories, two domains. There's those feelings that belong to the world of our five senses. And it's those feelings that belong to an inner world not connected to the five senses. So if I get that massage, that's a sensory pleasure because my senses are being stimulated in a nice way. If I get it pinched, that's a sensory experience because my senses, my skin, my touch nerves are being stimulated. So the same thing with smell or taste or things you see or hear. You can have pleasant or unpleasant things there. But there's also what we feel inside. So if, for example, you feel peaceful, where do you feel that peacefulness? It's kind of, maybe you feel it in your heart, you feel it in your chest, you feel kind of inner radiance perhaps, or stillness inside that you feel. If you feel regret, say that you offended your best friend today by doing something that maybe was not so nice to do, then maybe you feel kind of regret, you feel kind of heavy and weighed down. Where's that feeling of being heavy and weighed down? It's somehow inside. And so it doesn't belong to the sensory world of the five senses, It belongs to some inner world that is not of the senses. So the Buddha says it makes this distinction between this inner world and an outer world. And in both those worlds, you can tune into whether the experience is pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So this is very interesting because now we're beginning to be here in A, in this experience right here, and we're beginning now to distinguish between two different aspects of here, an inner world and an outer world. And as we begin moving into the inner world, that's where we discover the world of freedom. Because freedom is not found by getting a better massage. That's not the point. Or having more pleasant experiences in our life. If you're only free when things are pleasant, you're not really free. The idea is that freedom is much deeper than that. That allows you to be free in any circumstances at all, in such a way that your happiness, your peace, your well-being is not conditioned by the sensory world around you, what the conditions of the world around you, but there's something you have within. So in the second foundations of mindfulness, the instructions are to begin also becoming aware of this inner world. And this very simple thing, is it pleasant or unpleasant? How is it for you right now? Then we come to the third foundations of mindfulness, which is, the word is mindfulness of citta. And citta means, usually translated as mind. I think it might be better to translate it as a mind state. And so the mind, or the heart state. So as we become aware of this inner world, there's the general quality or state of this inner life that we have. It's not just pleasant or unpleasant, but it has different other characteristics as well. So for example, and what the Buddha talks about, is that if you're gripped by greed, then the inner state is characterized by greed. If there's no greed there, then it's not characterized by greed. If it's gripped by hate, and then the inner state is characterized by hate. It's kind of like a mood. You can feel this mood within you. So to start becoming aware of the inner mood becomes part of the task of mindfulness. Because as we become aware of the inner mood, I like to say the quality of our inner life, then we start becoming the custodian of that quality. We begin realizing that probably the most valuable thing you have is the quality of your heart. Some of the most beautiful and profound and meaningful things that people have in their lives are not the things of their life, but rather the quality, the feelings that kind of can be said to be of the heart. Love, peace, compassion, freedom, that it's felt from the inside. I consider it to be the qualities of the inner life, qualities of mind, qualities of heart. Some people will say, no, it's my family that's important, or my friends are important. Yes, but probably the reason they're important is because of the way that you connect to them through your heart, through the quality of heart that's a high quality. If you go around being greedy and hateful and spiteful at home with your family or your friends still might be important, but you're probably not getting a very high quality connection to them. So when the Buddha, when this third foundation of mindfulness, he talks about the mind state, or the inner state, the quality of it, it's possible now to tune into that quality of our mood or inner life is variable. And you can feel it being in different ways at different times. One of the things you can feel is that sometimes it's contracted and sometimes it's expansive. So that the texts talk about an expansive or contracted mind. And probably that's something some of you have experienced from time to time, that sometimes your mind, your heart, your mood gets all contracted, you're caught up in some concern, and other times you feel quite relaxed and open, it feels quite expansive. And if you have a nice nap, you've eaten a nice meal, and things are going basically well for you, you can go out on a beautiful sunny day and look at the mountains and feel quite expansive. Another day, you gotten the letter from the IRS saying that there's a problem with your taxes, and you go out of your house and you don't notice anything, but you're just like caught up in your world of taxes and what am I owe now, And so you feel much more contracted or limited because of the concern you have. So you can feel sometimes that the consciousness, the inner life sometimes darkens, gets small, gets heavy, gets way down, gets troubled. And sometimes it feels the opposite. It feels expansive, it feels light, it feels transparent, it feels translucent, it feels expansive in some way. So the instructions is to start noticing the shifting quality and characteristic of the mind state. The Buddha in this instruction doesn't say you should be one way or the other. He just says in this instruction, just notice the shifting quality of how it changes through the day and over time. Become familiar with it. But he's talking to people who are meditating. And so part of the instruction is also to become aware of these things in meditation, where you tend to have a much wider range, if you meditate well, of feelings of expansiveness, openness, stability, steadiness, and a sense of freedom. I'm sorry about that, especially those of you that... So all this is built. All this is it's kind of like information gathering part of the practice. So we learn to arrive in the present moment, to be here at A in some high quality way. And A means to really dive into yourself, into your body, your experience of breathing, experience of your body, the feeling tone, what it feels like. And as you kind of go into this deeper and deeper, you start noticing, even without trying, start noticing that there's a mind state, there's a mood, there's a heart in there that has a certain quality and characteristic. And that quality can be high quality or can be low quality, depending on what's going on in your life. That's just information, just to notice these things. Then we get to the fourth foundation of mindfulness, the fourth area of mindfulness training. And this is to begin to notice what's true about how we get, what affects the quality of our heart. What affects the heart, whether it's enslaved, caught up, trapped, restricted, attached, clinging, or whether the heart is liberated or free. And it's the truths about those things which keep the heart unliberated, keep it caught, and those things that keep the heart free. Those are the truths we begin to noticing. It's the patterns, it's the causal connections, it's the cause and effect relationships that have bearing on the quality of the heart. And the task here is now not just to gather information, but actually to begin to understand how this works. How attachment gives rise to feeling suffering. How the release of attachment gives rise to feeling of freedom and liberation and peace. So the first task here is something called the 5 hindrances. So I'm not going to tell you the all 5 because there's enough lists for one night. But these are the 5 different areas where we tend to, 5 areas that we tend to lose our mindfulness, lose our attention, lose our wisdom, because we're so caught up in desires and aversions. And so whenever you get caught up in a really strong desire, so you hardly even know that you have a desire, you just want something, then you know you're lost in this hindering quality of mind. It hinders our ability to have a heightened sense of attention. It creates suffering. So the task here is to begin to notice, how is it that you get caught up in something like desire? And how do you free yourself from the desire? What's the path? What goes on here? What are the feelings, the emotions, the beliefs? What's coming into play that gets you so wrapped up around desire? And once you're wrapped up around desire, so how do you free yourself from it? How do you let go of it? So this is the task, is to see this. Because as we begin bringing this kind of understanding, then we get a certain degree of mastery. We're not the victim of desire. We're not needing to just be able to, if we're suffering, we're not just suffering better. Sometimes the way mindfulness teachings is taught, it would seem that the instructions are, be really mindful of your suffering, seemingly so you can just suffer better. But the task of being mindful of your suffering is not just to be mindful of suffering so you can suffer better, but rather to understand it in some deep way. So not only